Hello and welcome to the Wash, DraftKings, FanDuel, and season-long fantasy picks. I am joined here with my partner in crime, Rutgers GOAT and former Miami Dolphins wide receiver, Leonte Carew. How are you doing, Leonte?
I'm doing great. Ready to give out these picks, baby.
So today we're going to go over our top season-long, and we'll probably dabble in a little bit of daily fantasy knowledge, season-long running backs, defenses, and we'll go over our top 250 for flex positions. So getting right to it, starting off, ESPN Las Vegas ranked top running backs are as follows, and we will give you our picks and our breakdowns of this. No surprise here. Number one, Bijan Robinson. Number two, Jameer Gibbs. Number three, Saquon Barkley. Number four is a bit of a surprise to me, and I don't know how you feel about that, Leonte. Ashton Genty, Christian McCaffrey at number five. Uh, Devon Etienne, one of your guys from the Dolphins. Number six, Derrick Henry. Bucky Irving at number eight, another surprise. Jonathan Taylor and Josh Jacobs to round out the top 10. Which one of these guys, first, I guess my first question is, with your first pick in the draft, would you pick a running back? And if so, which one of these guys would you pick?
I would absolutely pick a running back. And if I had to pick a running back, my number one overall pick, receiver, running back, Jameer Gibbs.
Okay.
Especially with the news that just came out this week that the offensive coordinator is going to be utilizing Jameer Gibbs as a receiver. Last year, he caught 4 receiving touchdowns for 527 yards. And this year they plan on using him. He basically won't come off the field. So if he's in at running back, he'll be at running back. The moment he's not at running back, he will go to the slot, play receiver, and Montgomery will come in. I think that's just a ton of fantasy points right there with him never coming off the field.
And I guess on DraftKings and FanDuel, we'll see for the weekly fantasy, we'll see how much he costs. Because if he's like 10 grand, because in some games last year, Barkley was like 10 grand, and out of a 50,000, dollar salary, that's kind of a lot of money. So I don't know if I would pick him first in a weekly, but if I had a season long fantasy, and I think that you're correct. I feel like, I mean, I know last week we talked about quarterbacks, and we talked about wide receivers, but I don't see anybody like getting more volume than Jameer Gibbs this year. I mean, do you agree with that? Like as far as like being on the field, like you said, they're gonna work him in as a slot receiver. Is that
As
what they said?
as a slot receiver. So he will be they felt like they could utilize him and create mismatches in the game. And with him never coming off the field, I mean, he's gonna score a lot of points, score a lot of touchdowns, get a lot of yards, get a lot of first down. So he is very talented.
Yeah, so I think that puts him into like a McCaffrey type level where
Yes.
like like the upside is like he doesn't have the injury potential that McCaffrey has. Like putting him in, obviously he's going to get all the red zone work in the backfield,
Yep.
but also like motioning him out as a slot
Yes.
guy. Like that's going to be very interesting to see. And that Detroit Lions offense is going to be incredibly dangerous this year.
Yep.
So really looking forward to that. So any of these other top 10 guys that you really got an eye on, or any sleepers maybe that you have for at running back for these top 10?
I mean, let's go with the number one pick overall. I mean, he's the number one running back pick as of right now. Bijan Robinson, he is incredibly talented. That Falcons offense is going to be special. Like we said last week, you just don't know what you're going to get out of Penix yet. So we got to kind of see what flows. If Kirk Cousins is going to be the guy, who's going to be the quarterback. But Bijan Robinson, I mean, the way he created plays out of nothing last year himself without having a dominant offense just goes to show how talented he really is. And you can't go wrong with Saquon Barkley. I mean, let's face it, he's coming off of a historical season. I think, I saw an interview a couple months ago where he said he feels like he's in his prime right now. When a dude is coming off a 1,600-yard season and he says that, I'm drafting him. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't go wrong with a guy like Saquon Barkley. Um, we talked about Ashton Genty a little bit last week, a tiny bit. I'm very scared to put rookies for a season long fantasy. I mean, we don't. This guy was a beast in college, right? But we don't know what he's capable of yet. It's a whole different ball game. He's coming to the NFL now. A lot of big boys, a lot of guys run the same speed as you. So, and no disrespect, but he's going to the Raiders. So it's kind of like we just got to see week one how they utilize him, you know. But I would stay away from that for now. For him to be number 4 overall and to be ahead of guys that have proven themselves in this league, it's a little scary on my end.
Yeah, and I think just to follow up on that, I think that like for a season long, obviously probably in weekly fantasy for DraftKings and FanDuel, what we're probably all going to do is be paying like a lot of attention to that week one Las Vegas matchup to see how he does.
Yep.
Because like we know that the Raiders had Josh Jacobs, and we know Josh Jacobs is a beast, right? Like he is a very good running back. So, and he even had like a less than I guess expected season out in Las Vegas. So I don't know if that's an offensive scheme problem. I don't know if that's offensive line problem, but I think just in general, they like if Genty got drafted to the Cowboys or to the Eagles, I'd say, oh yeah, I mean absolutely, we know that offensive line is legit. So I think the jury's kind of still out on Las Vegas's offensive line. I don't know if you feel the same way. And I guess plus they got a lot of new pieces, and they're going to be trying out a new passing scheme. So that's going to be really a whole new offense there. So
Yeah, and I
um,
mean they did just pick up Pete Carroll, and Pete Carroll just he's proven that he wins at least 10 games a season when he's the head coach. So and then they got Geno Smith, so I'm sure they're going to be competitive. They're not going to be like the Raiders from the last couple years who haven't been really that good. I do think he brings them a different dynamic now because I mean Brock Bowers carried that offense last year. Now you have a guy in the backfield who's proven himself at the collegiate level, but we got to see how he does in NFL. It'll be interesting to see how he does week one.
Yeah, so and I mean you can call me crazy, but with like just looking at this top 10, I feel like we have a lot of running back talent in the first 10 picks than we've ever had in a long time. And I think most fantasy it's season long leagues especially are like, they're 10 teams, right? Like once you go bigger than 10 teams, it gets a little difficult. But most of them are 10 teams. So I'm not even opposed to having my first two picks as running backs, right? Because let's say you're in a snake draft, and if for those of you viewers who don't know, let's say you pick 10th, and then the line comes down, then you pick first. It just goes like a snake. So that's what most season long fantasy drafts are. They're snake drafts. So if I had a snake draft, and let's say guys are picking receivers and quarterbacks, which I think like just in default for the most part, people think they have to pick a quarterback
Hmm.
on their first pick, and I generally don't agree with that. I think there's plenty of, once you compare quarterbacks at the end of the season, the top 20 really are kind of comparable, and as far as PPR points go. So I think like I would go with like try to get one of these. Like let's say I had the seventh pick,
Yeah.
like, I would pick, like, Henry Jonathan Taylor or, like, Josh Jacobs, and if, like, Kyron Williams or James Cook or, like, Chase Brown or Joe Mixon were still available in the second round, I might grab one of them because there's so much value at wide receiver out there
Yep.
that, like, it's almost worth it at this point, especially if you're not gonna blow like, actually, I've done a couple of season longs, and I'm not gonna lie, like, I blew my first pick on a tight end. Leonte talked me into Bowers last week, so my first 2, best ball drafts I did on DraftKings, I picked Bowers as my first pick, and actually it was a good strategy because I was able to get Ingram as my second tight end, which is crazy
Yeah.
because like because they have different bye weeks, so you got to get a second tight end. But like I don't know, how do you feel about that? Would you pick two running backs in your first for your first two picks in a season long Friends draft or season long ESPN or a sleeper draft?
Well, Mike, like honestly, the game has changed so much. Like you're not getting your traditional like Priest Holmes or Sean Alexander type of running backs now, where they were just running the ball straight downhill. You are getting guys that like are catching passes out of the backfield, like
And throwing them.
and throwing them and doing all types of crazy things. Like these running backs nowadays, they're literally going to rush for about 1,000 yards, and then they're going to have 43 catches, and then they're going to have 5 receiving touchdowns. And like Bucky Irvin, he's a guy on this list. I think he's eighth. He is tremendously talented. Like, and you're playing with Baker Mayfield, who creates BS and just he just throws the ball everywhere, and it works for him. Now you're in a backfield with a receiving core who's arguably one of the top receiver cores in the NFL, and now you're in the backfield for this. So now teams are scheming, teams are playing, two safeties over the top, and that allows you to just run the ball to Bucky Irvin and get a ton of fantasy points. I mean, all these guys, like Jonathan Taylor's probably the only running back. And I would say Jonathan Taylor and Derrick Henry are probably the two running backs on this list that are just like downhill running backs. These other running backs are running routes. Devon Achane, the things that they do with him. I mean, I remember watching one game last year for the Dolphins. They threw him 3 screen passes in a row. 3.
Yeah.
So it's like these running backs, Christian McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, Jameer Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, they all can catch passes out of the backfield and literally get you a ton of fantasy points, not only rushing, receiving, I mean, just everything.
And I guess a quick weekly fantasy question I have for you, because nobody expected that 70-point Dolphins game last season, and I think everybody was kicking themselves for not stacking the Dolphins in that game. And I think that was one of the higher over unders of the week that game. But I guess like just to focus in a little bit. So I think 6 and 7 with HEN and Henry are very interesting to me. But would you like for a season long fantasy? Would you be worried about HEN because they do rotate backs a lot in Miami, or are you worried about like Henry and his durability issues? Do you think Henry's going to ball out? Do you think he's not worth picking, or do you think HEN's not worth picking because they're going to rotate out backs? Which one would you pick out of these two? I guess that's the question.
I mean, in my opinion, Derrick Henry is going into, I think he's the same draft class as me. So he's going into year 10. You got to think a guy like that, big guy like that, he's not running the same like he did these last couple years. I mean, he had a great season last year, had a great season the year before that, but eventually you got to think that the horse is going to slow down a little bit. So, I would rather pick a guy like Achan. I mean, Achan's only going into his third year. He's young, he's fresh, he has legit 4.2 speed. I think the knock on the Ravens is that Lamar can't get it done, and I think that they, not saying that their own team is going to put a pressure on Lamar, but I think they want to see if Lamar can pass the ball and lead them to a championship. Because if running the ball was going to win them a Super Bowl, then they would have handed the ball off to Derrick Henry 50 times last year. I think teams are starting to key in on him and making Lamar throw the ball. So it's going to, towards the end of the season, it's going to kind of mess up your fantasy points if you take Derrick Henry in a season long, because I think teams are really starting to key on him, and they're really starting to figure like how to stop Derrick Henry, and make Lamar Jackson throw the ball.
Yeah, I think that was going to be my point. Like make Lamar beat us by passing,
Yep.
because like he's going to make 5 great passes, but then like we know Lamar's track record, he's going to try to do too much in the red zone and throw a pick or throw it out of bounds or get a safety or whatever. Anyway, so let's say you don't go with the two running backs like I didn't go with picking running backs first, and I was kind of disappointed with my running back picks, but I'll correct that later if we decide to do a friends season wide fantasy league. But so let's say you don't. Let's say you get to your second round and there's James Cook, and for your first running back pick, you picked receivers or quarterback, and your first pick is like James Cook, Chase Brown, Joe Mixon, or Kenny Walker. Which one of those four would you take?
Um, I would take Chase Brown. I mean, I think Chase Brown is just getting started. At the end of the day, you have arguably, I mean, you can't go wrong with Chase Brown or James Cook. You know why? Because you have two of the arguably the best quarterbacks in the NFL, and they're going to find ways to get you the ball. Though both those offensive coordinators are very creative. I mean, the Bengals had basically the highest scoring offense last year, and then Josh Allen is just Josh Allen. I mean, there's plenty of plays if you go back and watch film of him rolling right, throwing all the way back left to running backs. And James Cook, I think he's going through a contract battle right now. But if they lock him in and he plays and he's locked in, there's not like I don't want to say like he's not a superstar, but he's like one of those running backs that's not like a Barkley or a Henry or a Jameer Gibbs, and he's just super underrated, and he just plays extremely extremely well. So you can't go wrong with a Chase Brown or a James Cook, because those guys are ballers. They're just super underrated. So I kind of like the underdog kind of guys. Like I think those type of guys are hungry, especially Chase Brown. Like he's hungry, and it was like a little bit of like the Bengals. They weren't sure if he was going to be the guy, or he kind of came on the scene last year and exploded. Like he's officially now the guy. So I'm excited to see how he's going to do.
Yeah, and I'm a little interested, and since you went over those guys, and definitely take that into consideration. I'm a little interested, like let's say you get really bumped down, like you're a 10 in the snake draft, and you blew your first two on a quarterback and a receiver, and then you got to wait 18 picks to get your next pick. I'm not like I think I would stay away from Joe Mixon only because his injury history has gotten worse over the last couple of years, even though he's a very good running back. But Kenny Walker at 15 really excites me. Kenneth Walker has gotten better every single year in the NFL, and I feel like the Seahawks, now that they've lost Geno, that they're probably going to be a more run focused offense. So I don't hate Kenneth Walker as being a top 10 back in the NFL this year and kind of carrying you through your fantasy. I don't know how you feel about that.
I don't hate it at all either. He's a beast. He's a beast. They got Sammy D now, and then they got the kid from Alabama, Milrow. So Sammy D did Sam Darnold did well last year. Um, I just think new system, Seattle. They're going to be more of a run heavy type of offense. They just lost Metcalf. So you got a lot of young receivers in their offense that's going to have to step up. They got Cooper Cup now. He's known as a great blocker. So Cooper Cup blocking on you in the slot and blocking those safeties and cracking them, I think that opens up a lot of holes for Walker to succeed.
Yeah, so I absolutely agree. So I want to I want to get to our top 250 flex and other players. So I'm going to we'll just really go quickly into defense because, and my view, defense is a coin flip. I mean, as far as these PPR games go, like sacks and pick sixes are what's going to carry your defense, and I don't think there's any way to predict that in the NFL. Going for a season long, which is why it's much easier to pick these defenses on a weekly basis, which is why I tend to stick to the weekly fantasy. But any of these top 10 defenses excite you at all? And who would, if you have to pick one for your season wide, but let's see, other than, picking a name out of a hat, out of the Texans, the Ravens, the Broncos, the Eagles, the Vikings, the Steelers, the Lions, and the Packers, Patriots, and Seahawks, who would you pick for a season long fantasy?
So I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
My first one is the Broncos. Coming off a crazy year, you have the reigning defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain. He's pretty much going to lock down the side of the field by himself. Then you have that D line that just flies around. You have those linebackers that are really, really talented, and they're just really, really, really good. I mean, they play well. They play technical. I mean, even if you watched the game last year when they played Buffalo in Buffalo, they were just surrounding Josh Allen. They were just all over him. They swarmed to the ball. They play really, really well together. And that's the thing about defenses. If you play well together and you swarm to the ball and everybody's on their key, your defense is like lights out. It's a reason why in the Super Bowl the Eagles looked the way they did because they were just on each other and they were just like technically sound and they were just swarming to the ball and they made a great quarterback like Mahomes look like he was a Pop Warner player. They were confusing him and all types of stuff. And then I talked about this guy plenty of times on the show. My high school college coach and my high school coach and my college coach, my mentor, Anthony Campanelli, is now the defensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars. So if you want a sleeper defense, I would go with that guy. I would always go with that guy. That guy's always been a huge role in my life, and I just know how hard he works. So I know he's going to put in the work. And now that he has his first shot, he bounced around the league as a linebacker coach, a DB coach, and all, and a D line coach and stuff like that. And now I think that he has his shot. He's going to put in the work, and I think Jaguar fans are going to be very happy with the defense this year.
Yeah, so I want to bounce back to running back, but I'll give you my defense real quick. Like, why reinvent the wheel? Like you said, the Eagles, they have 10 guys they can rotate in on that defensive line. They don't have to show blitz. They don't even have to blitz. They made Patrick Mahomes look like a clown during the Super Bowl. I think that the Eagles are just going to ramp that up this season. Like I said, sacks and pick sixes are going to be the top. I think the Eagles have one of the most talented secondaries and obviously the most talented rushing front in the NFL. So I'm definitely sticking with my Eagles on that front. But I guess something we kind of glossed over. I guess Kenneth Walker was kind of my sleeper pick, but at 15, I don't think that really counts. But any rookies or sleepers at running back other than Genty that you might pick?
Yeah, the running back from the San Diego LA Chargers, Amari Hampton. He is phenomenal, quick, elusive. He's just really, really, really good. So that's a sleeper pick. Watch out for Amari Hampton, especially in that offense. They're going to be explosive. Um, and yeah, I like him. I think Harbaugh is going to have a lot of cool things to do with him because he's so good. And yeah, I think he'll be fine. I think he's going to be get you guys a lot of points. So watch out for Amari Hampton.
All right, so going right into what everybody came for, the top 250 whether you want to pick these guys in their positions or as a flex. I'll start from the top. Jamar Chase. I think that's a no-brainer there. Bijan Robinson's number 2. Number 3 is Justin Jefferson. Number 4 is Jameer Gibbs. Number 5 is Malik Neighbors, which we'll talk about because there's been some developments there. Number 6 is CD Lamb. Number 7 is Puka. Amon St. Brown comes in at number 8. Number 9 is Genty, which is surprising to me, even though he's never played a game in the NFL. Brian Thomas, number 10, and Brock Bowers at number 11. So I did make a good choice for my season long. Number 12, HN, and number 13, Amarion Hampton, which you brought up from the Chargers. So out of these top 10 guys, would you take a flex player with your first pick or your second pick, or would you take one of these guys at their normal positions? Let's start with Malik Neighbors because I think you broke some news today that it won't be breaking when this runs, but maybe you can talk a bit about that.
Yeah, so we got Malik Neighbors at 5 for the flex position. Russell Wilson just got announced as their starting quarterback this year. So I'm not too sure about that. I mean, like we talked about last week, right? If you're a defense coming in to play the Giants, you're pretty much just going to key in on Malik Neighbors. And does Russell Wilson have the accuracy, the arm strength in year 15, whatever year he's going into, to really get this guy the ball? This guy's young, fast, talented, but are they going to be able to connect well enough where you will feel comfortable taking this guy at number 5? I don't know. I would stay away. I would rather go with a Brian Thomas than a Malik Neighbors. I mean, I hate to say this. I love the kid. I think he's talented, but I think Malik Neighbors has a down year from last year.
So any of those top 10 stand out to you as must picks or must passes, or somebody you're surprised is in that list?
I mean, I think the best flex on this list right now, because obviously Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, all those guys are going to, CD Lamb, they're going to be like everyone's like number 1 pick, right? So a good flex would be like St. Brown. Like St. Brown is the ultimate flex to have. He might not be your 1, he might not be your 2, and if he is your 2, then let's say if he was to be a number 2 receiver, then a nice flex would be like a Drake London, in my opinion. Like, oh my God, having him as your flex, if you were able to get lucky enough to have like a Chase and a Gibbs and then have Drake London as your flex, I mean, these guys are like number 1 guys on my list. I do think Marvin Harrison Jr. had a bad year last year. His dad is my favorite receiver of all time. I think he bounces back his sophomore year and he goes nuts. So I would say Marvin Harrison Jr. is also a great flex to have. And yeah, I mean, I seriously, I didn't even think about this guy. Watch out for Marvin Harrison Jr. this year. I think he's going to have a special year this year.
So is that your sleeper for wide receiver?
That's one of my sleepers for wide receiver.
We'll add him in. We'll backfill him into the last episode.
Yep.
So I'm going to jump down to number 30, the 30th highest, and I'm going to leave quarterbacks out because the quarterbacks are super flex, and most people don't play super flex leagues. But so this is where I really struggle. So from 30 to 40 is like and that might be like your late second, early third, or even 4th round, depending on how big your draft is. I struggle with this group of people. So at number 30, we have Xavier Worthy. We have Tatoria McMillan. We have Garrett Wilson. Well, no, we have Garrett Wilson. We got Kyron Williams, Josh Jacobs, Kenny Walker, Sam Laporta, and Zay Flowers, Rashid Rice and Zay Flowers. So any of these guys stand out to you as somebody that you may pick before, as a first pick or a second or third or even 4th?
100%. I talked about this guy last week, Rashid Rice. Rashid Rice was coming off, his first 3 weeks of the season was better than anybody in the NFL. He was balling. Then he got hurt, and you got Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. So I think he's going to have a phenomenal year. Can't go wrong with Sam Laporta. I mean, he's one of the best tight ends in the league. It's like I'll be curious to see how they use him that week 1, but I definitely think Sam Laporta is super talented, creates a lot of separation. I read something earlier that said for you fantasy guys out there, if you're thinking about taking like a Keon Coleman in this second round to be your flex, stay away. He creates the least amount of separation out of any receiver in the NFL. So if you are thinking about taking Keon Coleman, please stay away. I would rather go with like a T Higgins or a DJ Moore, or a Terry McLaurin. Those guys are probably not going to be the 1-2, but I can definitely see them falling to like a second round, and they're much safer than taking like a Keon Coleman. So stay away.
Yeah, and I think when we start getting down, I want to go down into 50, into the 50s, in the 60s on this.
How is Devontae Smith in the
I have no. I mean, this is the top 250. So I guess by like what projected PPR is going to be, or points points for per whatever as far as their rushes, receivers, or if they're punt returners or whatever your flex player is. Um, I guess, and that's the thing with tight ends. That's why I picked the tight end early, and I think that's a good strategy this year because like you'll drop down to like a you know a TJ Hawkinson where he's going to get a lot of looks, he's going to get a lot of red zone targets. So and he's the 50th player on here, so you wouldn't think, but he'll be gone by the time your first 5 rounds are through. Like
I
he's
mean,
probably going to go in the top
I
three.
tell you what, I absolutely love these last three right here. Devontae Adams,
Yeah,
Jordan Addison, and Jamison Williams.
yeah,
Woo! If you could get those three guys as a flex, you'll be balling this fantasy. You know why? Because a lot of teams are going to double Justin Jefferson. So Jordan Addison is going to have to go off, right? He's going to be one-on-one a lot. He was starting to come along towards the end of the season. A lot of people are going to double team Puka, so Devontae Adams has no choice but to go off, and you can't really play that guy one-on-one. He has proven that over his career. And Jamison Williams is just 4.2 legit speed. Teams are going to double St. Brown, right? They're going to double Jameer Gibbs. They're going to worry about Montgomery. They're going to worry about Sam Laporta. So who leaves you? Who leaves? Who's left to be led? Is Jamison Williams. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the last guy. He's like the fifth option on that roster. So
yeah. And I
on
think I think down here at 56, like obviously Devontae Smith stands out to me out of all these guys.
yeah,
I think he'd be my number one. As far as like bouncing something off your strategy for your like sixth and seventh round, you want to start thinking about teams that are very good and they're 2 and 3 because if they're up in games, these guys are
yep.
going to be getting more burn, right? Like if somebody gets hurt, these guys are going to be getting more burn. So I think two things to take into consideration is one, how much are they going to be blowing out teams
Yeah.
to where these guys are getting work, and two, how likely is it that their number one's going to go down with an injury because they've done it every season.
So another thing we didn't talk about this on this episode or last episode. Would you take a chance with Travis Hunter at all?
No, I think we did talk about that, and I think we both said no.
No, right?
Yeah, I think
No.
we both he's just too risky. I think we went over the rookies and we were just like too risky. I
Yeah.
don't think I'd have any rookies in my flex to tell you the truth
Yeah.
because the hot ones are going to go quick for stupid or very smart people, depending on how they turn out, are going to take them in their first couple of rounds. But I don't see me picking any. I think flex players have to be old reliables and veterans.
I tell you what, another good flex we didn't talk about. I seen him balling on Instagram today. George Pickens,
Okay, yeah,
new team, fresh. You got CD Lamb, your number 2 to CD Lamb. I mean, I like it a lot.
Yeah, no, agreed. So I think we're getting close to time here. So if you guys, want to see our last week's episode, wide receivers and quarterbacks, and some strategy, click up in the left corner. If you want to see our videos from the very beginning, tight ends, and just us joking around about an all-Italian team, click on the right. Leonte, any shout-outs?
No, I'm good.
All right, so
Yeah,
we're going to go have some fun,
yep.
and you guys stay tuned for next week, and we're getting really excited for football season.